Rebecca MacKinnon. I'm co-founder, along with Ethan Zuckerman, of Global Voices, which is a global citizen media website. I'm also an assistant professor at the University of Hong Kong. I teach online journalism, and I also do quite a lot of research about censorship and free speech issues in China. And I'm working on a book this year that has to do with China and the global internet.
Like the center of gravity of the internet is moving to Asia very fast.
Yeah, well, China now has more internet users than there are American people, you know, so it's certainly, you're absolutely right, there's a center of gravity that's really shifting. And I think the first decade or so, I mean, you know, with mass use of the internet, it's been dominated by English speakers, by people from the West, with kind of, so share language, share certain kind of socio-political, cultural values. And that's shifted now to non-English and away from kind of North America, Western Europe to really proliferate into all kinds of different languages with people from all types of countries and cultures and political systems with a whole range of values. And so it's becoming a very different place, I think, and much less familiar to the kind of, you know, the original people from the internet who were very accustomed to having everything in a language they could understand amongst people they related to. And now we're in this era where people really need to bridge in between cultures and languages, and you know, there are lots of different pockets of the internet that aren't connecting to each other as much because they're all speaking different languages. And China, the Chinese internet, because it's in Chinese, is a big mystery for most people who don't speak Chinese. And so, yeah, I try to do a little work trying to explain that here and there.
It's so important that we pay attention to what is happening in China. Do you think we should be paying attention, and maybe there's a lesson that we may need to apply?
Well, I think there are some lessons, yeah. And I think, you know, when you look at China, I think the stereotype of China is that, you know, oh, it must not be very fun because people must be, you know, just very angry about censorship and kind of struggling against their government all the time. But actually, you know, the government has allowed a much wider space for conversation and discourse, and is even using the internet to talk to the population and so on, even though they haven't democratized. And so China might be becoming sort of this new model of what I like to call cybertarianism. It's this kind of more participatory form of authoritarianism where people have an opportunity to talk about a lot of stuff, but there's still censorship, there's still manipulation, there's still you know, no legal guarantees for freedom of speech, there are no democratic elections, it's one-party state, and so on. So, but people feel much more free than they used to, so they're like, well, it's not so bad, kind of thing. And so China is kind of, I think, a warning sign that, you know, if you want to have democracy, you need you need more than just a government that puts all its video on the internet and posts comment threads, you know, allows for people to post comments. You know, that democracy is more than that. Between people who think you need more control and you need to protect your kids and you need to fight terror and you need to fight copyright violators, and people who are kind of thinking, no, we need civil liberties, we need free speech, we need human rights. And in any country on earth, you know, there's kind of a fight that goes on between these kind of different sides of society all the time. And there's an argument going on in China as well, you know, even though, you know, the ones who want control obviously, you know, are in charge, but there's a lot of people pushing back. And so I think, you know, it's less about saying, okay, us in the free world, we're going to come save you, you know, that I think a lot of Chinese people are, you know, even ones who don't like their government so much are like, well, that's pretty condescending and annoying, and we don't want you to save us. We want to figure it out ourselves. And so, but I think I think a lot of it is just to kind of support people in China for it helped them kind of have a discourse there so that they can figure out where they want to take their country, and that different voices with different points of view can be heard. And I think it's less about lecturing the Chinese about how great democracy is, and it's more about listening to the people in China who are already talking and making sure those voices don't get drowned out or lost or crushed, and helping to find platforms for those voices to spread. And so I think that's a lot of it is about listening as much as it is about doing anything specific or just helping to amplify and encourage what people in China are doing.
Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic about
Well,
freedom?
it's always hard to predict future and so on. I think in the short to medium term, you could almost say that the Chinese Communist Party might stay in power longer thanks to the internet and using it skillfully to kind of provide more space for people to blow off steam. But in the longer term, I'm optimistic about human nature, certainly, but I think my optimism is also, I think we can get a little too cyber utopian, and we can't just say just because we have the internet, therefore the world's going to change and we're going to have love and peace and global understanding and democracy. It really depends on what individuals choose to do on a daily basis to help make the world a freer place and to make the internet a freer place. And if you just kind of sit there and say, oh, well, we have the internet, so everything will be great eventually, I'm a big optimist. I don't have that kind of optimism. I'm optimistic that if people care and if people try, then there can be a lot of progress.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome. Yeah, take care.